how concerned are you about the federal deficit?
Not concerned at all.
Why?
I think it's very manageable because interest rates are basically zero. I think the federal government's done a great job of getting us through this. I think we would have got into a really deep crater, would have had a really hard time coming out of it. Look how vibrant the economy is. If the government had not done what it's done, you wouldn't be seeing this. So I'm all in favor of what the government did.
I'm concerned. I don't think our deficit is being managed properly. I recognize that even though we're borrowing more money now, the cost of borrowing is less, so it's less burdensome on us as Canadians. However, I think that we do have to pay attention. I think a lot of times our political leaders think that it's a bottomless pit of cash, and the taxpayers a well that they can just keep going back to. So I would like them to take some responsibility and ensure that they're fiscally responsible.
The federal debt is just, I don't know, it's just been ignored. And COVID was just money, 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 money. We got the Indigenous rights things right now, and yeah, it's a sad story, but money, money, money's the answer to everything for Trudeau, with no accountability.
Not that important. I think it's much more important to get money into the hands of Canadians who are going to spend it coming out of this now that they've got opportunities to do things. I think our civil servants have done a great job handing out, especially at Service Canada and stuff like that. I know that CERB and all that was handed out super effectively, and I think they're doing a great job with the resources that they're being given.
I'm extremely concerned with the federal deficit. I actually think that the more money we spend that is not in our pockets, the more we run the risk of inflation. I think the amount of money that was spent in the last budget is, quite frankly, disgusting. Because that much more money in the economy could very well run the risk of inflation, which could then run the risk of interest rates, and that's where you touch a lot of people's wallets very hard.
It is certainly a tactic used by conservatives and right-wingers to fearmonger and explain why they don't know how to make proper investments. You can spend money and get much more money from that back. That's why we have a healthcare system. That's why we educate people. There's lots of things we never take away from spending, and there's more investments that can be made. The trick is if you don't know how to make those investments, then you're just going to tell people that any investment's a bad idea because you can't figure it out. There's plenty of investments that we can make that would help grow the economy and actually would reduce our debt load in the long term because we get a return on them.
Well, I've heard economists explain that it doesn't really matter, and when they tell it, it makes sense to me. As somebody who lived through when our mortgage went up for 22%, so we were paying twice as much to keep our house, I think I'm a little bit more afraid of inflation and less afraid of the deficit. Ask me tomorrow and I might say something different. They say if you put 5 economists in a room, you'll have 5 different opinions.
Still very concerned, not just for myself, but for the future. And not just for the future of the province, but the future of Canada. We have to make sure that we're fiscally responsible. And if we don't do that, then we're not leaving, a great future for our kids and our grandkids, for sure.
The federal deficit, that's going to affect all Canadians. So I feel like that is one of our priorities to tackle and stuff. So if the Conservatives, the Liberals, or any other party that is involved with the election will actually tackle that and actually work on doing that well, I'll gladly vote for that party.
My generation is going to be paying for it for the rest of our life. And it's a lot of mismanagement. It's a lot of disproportionate spending in areas that I don't think actually represent interests for Canadians and interests for the generations that are actually going to pay for it.
Although I'm concerned about the deficit, I'm more concerned about how we spent that money and whether that's going to constrain our ability to spend on issues that are important to people moving forward now.
Very concerned. Nobody's talking about it, and I feel like we are going to have to pay for this for the rest of our lives through taxes. It's just like, it's got to come from somewhere. So I think we're going to be hit very hard in the future.
Somewhat. I mean, it's been there such a long time that it's sometimes hard to even imagine it. And those kinds of numbers, of course, are beyond all of our personal sort of understandings. I'm expected to live with a balanced kind of lifestyle, and yet our government seems not able to do that. So are we handicapping the next generations? I'm not sure. But I also don't know how we run in this day and age without deficits, so I'm not sure.
Not a lot.
Why?
Why? Because the level of interest rates that are currently being charged in the debt is very, very low. As long as that keeps low, we should be fine.
No doubt it is very concerning. It is huge. I understand why, to get us through this pandemic, they needed to throw money at us. But now I'm kind of thinking of the future and what will that look like in the lives of an everyday Canadian type family.